Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mondays with MIKI. Welcome back. We haven't seen you guys in a while.
I can't hear you, Aaron.
You can't hear
there
me.
you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Good to go. Well, then let's go ahead and get started. Thanks, everyone, for taking time out of your Monday to join us today. We have a huge group of people online today. So we're really excited for that. I think, Tony, that's all you, man. It's all you. So we're really excited to have you with us. I am Erin Bemis and Director of MACP here in Michigan. Of course, we partner with Amy and Friends in Kentucky, Lisa and Friends in Illinois, and Shelly and Friends in Indiana. And, you know, we try and do what we can to help support ourselves, not only very locally, but statewide and, of course, regionally as well. So happy to have all of you on. And if any of us can be of help, of course, you know how to reach out to us. We're happy to do that. But it is my honor to introduce our presenter today, Mr. Tony Rubleski. Tony and I go back many years now. So we've known each other through a lot of changes as we keep going. And Tony is currently the president of the Mind Capture Group. His message is designed to help people capture more minds and more profits. He's an in-demand speaker, very in demand, who's given up hundreds of presentations. He is a strategic business coach and the creator of the Mind Capture Bootcamp, which is now in its 10th year. That's awesome. He has over 25 years of experience in the personal development industry, and his new book he's going to be talking about today as well. His book series, though, has spawned multiple bestsellers in a variety of business and coaching categories with Amazon. The acclaimed series has received many endorsements from a wide range of leaders in marketing, sales, and psychology, also in academia, and multiple New York Times best-selling authors. Book number 7 in the series is titled Positive Disruption. We're going to hear more about today. The Power of a Quote and Question to Uplift Your Life. It was released globally in December of 2020, and he is supporting the book currently with a 15-city live U.S. speaking tour. Tony, thanks so much for taking time out of your crazy schedule to work with all of us in our industry. We know you've been a longtime chamber friend, and we're really thrilled to have you.
Well, Aaron, thank you first and foremost for the invitation. Sounding good? Can everyone hear okay? Awesome. And Aaron, this goes back to a couple months ago. You reached out and said, hey, we've got this group called MIKI. And I said, let's do it. You know, so I want to start by also thanking you as well. And a couple quick things before we begin. If you've got a pen or a notepad, we're going to cover a lot of ground. And anywhere I've trained, and many of the chamber pros have seen me on this call, take a nugget or two if you can. And the session's very designed to be very hard-hitting, direct, uncensored. We're all adults here, okay? And we want you to think from two perspectives. Number one, the training to help positively disrupt you. And then secondly, there might be some ideas for your staff, some of your board members, and some of your chamber members that you glean from this. And I think what we'll do, Aaron, is at the end, is we'll give the slides out. I'll email them to those that are on the call, but I want to make sure that since we're together, number one, we don't waste your time. And number two, if an idea hits you when I go through a story or a slide or a visual, I'm going to use a lot of visuals, that each of us captures ideas right now. Again, we're all super busy. And I want to start out with a little humor here. When I used to teach at Institute back in the late 2000s as an instructor is, you know, there cannot be a crisis. My schedule is already full. The late Henry Kissinger. And I think every executive on the line, every chamber pro knows this, that, you know, you have an incredibly difficult job. You are the leader. And again, this session, when Aaron approached me and asked me to teach, I said, you know what, this is a session that is really geared towards a lot of chamber members and associations. However, I wanted to tweak it today for you though that are leading the chamber space. You don't make $1 million salaries unless that's changed the last few years. You do this because you love what you do. There's never a dull moment. And you know what? You could probably get other offers in the private sector to lead organizations, but you choose this because you love your community. So this is a joy to give this session back to the MIKI members that are on today, and that some that might catch this later on. But it's been a tough year, and we're all aware of this. So I want to start out with Erin. She's going to run slides for me. And the session basically is about mindset and lifting yourself back up. So as we see here, we're going to talk about positive disruption, a little bit based on the genesis of this talk. It's on my latest book. And what can you do yourself to get uplifted, but also inspire your members? And I call it a post-COVID world. We're still in it, but we're coming out of it pretty rapidly now. And I want to push you and positive disrupt you to think a little bit differently about going forward in this new post-COVID world. So let's get started with the first slide here, Aaron. It's from the classic book, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And the late, great, legendary philosopher said, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. Right now, a lot of chamber of pros that I'm communicating with and having conversations with, it's a unique time, as we all know. And many of them are seeing new members come in that never thought of the chamber because of what happened during COVID. So I look at it and say, hey, this is a great reason with the world coming out of this big timeout the last 15, 16 months to approach former members or newer members in the community or prospective members. Say, look, the chamber now is going to be even more valuable, I believe, for local and regional businesses because we're going back to face-to-face interaction. In addition, you have lots of small and mid-sized members and nonprofits that thrive even better when we're back to being more fully open, okay? Not everyone is Amazon, is not involved in big boxes where they were open no matter what. So this to me is another reason for chamber pros throughout the US and Canada. I do work with some boards of trade as well to really engage the smaller members to say, hey, who can you refer us to that's maybe one of your fellow businesses on Main Street that's never thought about the chamber? So this to me is an exciting time as things start to open up. Again, you're going to have to work through some fear. You're going to have to work through some doubt. And the fact that some of these small business owners are really struggling to get by. This to me is the right, perfect time to say, hey, this is why you should look at the chamber more than ever, okay? Continuing, I want to start out with a quick story here from arguably the world's richest man financially. His name is Jeff Bezos. You see in the photo here, do one more tap there. This was back in 2008. Jeff Bezos founded Amazon.com. And this picture was taken at an event called Book Expo America, where Jeff literally that day in May rolled out the Kindle product. Now that was the original Kindle that he's holding in his hand. And it was one of those weird Forrest Gump moments. And some of the folks on the line have heard me tell this story and share it at Institute or at state conferences, is that I didn't know that day in LA with my publisher, he was going to be the keynote speaker. So as you can imagine, I was like in the front row, excited. I actually got the chance to meet him very quickly, which was a unique experience. But he gave the presentation for Kindle that day. It was the world debut. And you have to imagine you're paint a picture over the Zoom call. There was about 700 people in the room. Many people were authors. There were publishers in the room. There was the press corps from around the world. There was a lot of bookstores in the room, Barnes and Noble buyers. It was just an eclectic mix of content creators back 13 years ago. And I remember Bezos at the end of his keynote presentation, which was like a sort of like a TEDx talk on steroids. It was a very good presenter. Obviously, he rehearsed this hundreds of hours, but he had some predictions about Kindle, maybe being the future of reading, future of absorbing content and books, but he wasn't sure how it was going to go. Now, I can imagine if I asked all of you one-to-one, how do you think it went? You'd say, it probably went pretty well, okay? The Kindle did much better than I'm sure his original expectations were with Amazon. But he looked around at the end of his keynote and he said something I'll never forget. I'm going to paraphrase the first part, then leave you with the exact point of this story, what he told us. He said, I know many of you in the audience, you're in the publishing industry, you're in the press corps here, some of your competitors, you're in the information business, but he said, let me give you one piece of advice. And grab your pen and paper, unless you're driving right now listening to this or you're at the gym, be careful. He said, sometimes you have to be willing to be misunderstood. Let me repeat that. He said, sometimes you have to be willing to be misunderstood. Now, for MIKI members, here's why I wanted to open up with this. Number one, it's not every day that a billionaire speaks to a group the day he rolls out a product line and then gives a very powerful, timeless, I believe, piece of advice. Chamber pros here, myself included, and some of your staff that might be listening, this is the time where you're going to maybe be misunderstood more than ever. As you open up live events, as you approach sponsors that are current and you approach new sponsors, it might feel a little awkward. And the fact is this, I'm going to hone in heavily on live events. That's my wheelhouse. I also produce events and speak at a lot of them. is this to me is a golden time where a lot of chambers and also associations can shine. My prediction, I will say it, take it for what it's worth. I think you're going to see in many organizations, you're going to see fewer events to start, but they're going to have more impact and more resonance with their audiences. So people are excited. Full disclosure, we hosted events during the pandemic. Now, that might draw some controversy and some people may not like it. Please hear me out. We had a lot of demand for an event that we did last fall. We did it in Indiana. We moved it 4 times. I'll talk about this later a little bit, but it was not the easiest thing to do, nor would I like to ever have to do a live event during a pandemic again. However, we learned that people crave human connection. So I'm going to start out taking a little bit from Jeff Bezos here and add my own little flavor to it. My bold prediction, we are now seeing that humans are built for social connection, not distance. Now, that would probably disqualify me with that statement for ever running for governor or politics. I don't care. I have to level with everyone listening to you if I was speaking with you across the table over a cup of coffee. The pandemic basically wiped my entire industry out. Mid-March of last year, all my speaking dates canceled. I was very grateful and blessed that many of my clients paid me. We modified and did several Zoom trainings. We adapted. The however is many of my friends left the industry. They went into other industries, they get full-time jobs. I saw firsthand the carnage of the lockdown. So it doesn't mean I'm angry. I'm not bitter at the politicians, but I did see firsthand my entire industry have to really struggle to make it through this, along with restaurants, entertainment, musicians. Those folks that were like me had basically no options for several months. We had to quickly adapt, or like I said, get out of the industry. That all being said, we are through that phase. Things are opening up. I've done some chamber events here the last couple of months. Some of the folks on the line are bringing me in to speak to their members. So there is now forward proof of optimism that events in the chambers are going to turn on, I believe, much faster and finally to engage their members and not yet members. Continuing. Let's start out with a congratulations for everybody here. Cue in the Indiana Jones music here from Raiders of the Lost Ark. We made it. We survived not only the asterisk year known as 2020, but we're taking a deep breath now. We're almost 6 months completely through 2021, and things are really turning forward for the better. And many of the presentations, I'll show a clip from Indiana Jones where he does a leap of faith. Everyone that's made it through this, whatever stories you have, those are going to be valuable. That's called wisdom. That's called experience. And for many of you listening, if you had to reduce the size of your staff or you're the only one working, that to me shows that you are rugged, that you have grit, persistence, because you did not fold. And again, I can't meet with each of you on a Zoom call, but I'm going to take some logical guesses here that many of you had to adapt completely. And you maybe had to cut some staff or you had to do some furloughs, but you made it through, and congratulations. All right, next point here. Again, a strong opinion moment here. This is for my leaders out there. This is the time to shine. And if we look back at 2020 and for the first 3 to 4 months of 2021, I think it's very apparent when I survey audiences and executives, for-profit, nonprofit, that there seemed to be a very clear lack of leadership at all levels the last 15 months. Again, I don't pick on people. I just look for trends and I observe. I watch people's actions, not what they tell me online. And we saw a clear deficit in leadership. What I want to encourage each of you as we positively uplift you today, and I call it positive disruption, is now to take some chances. You're going to have some pushback. Believe me, I've talked to many executives, a few of them are on the line today. I'm grateful you're all here, that are still getting pushback about doing live, or there's fear about what about this, what about that. A strong leader, he or she, the job is not easy. That's why you are the chamber leader. Regardless of your title within the chamber, the community looks up to you. You are a role model, whether you know that or not. So to me, there might be several ideas you have that you want to implement, that you've been thinking about. This is the time to start putting them back into motion. You're going to get some pushback. You might have a couple board members that are still very scared. You still have to respect their opinion, listen openly, and also say, hey, this may not be the direction we need to go to grow and go forward, but we value your opinion. So it's going to require us to agree to disagree more than ever, to listen without getting into personal arguments, to say, look, that's why we have a very good contrasting board of directors here, leaders and sponsors, because we want unique ideas to be able to feel free we can express them. Okay. Continuing. Core of what I've been teaching in the chamber world for almost 20 years now is we're in a battle for attention. I call it, if you click one more slide here, Aaron, mind capture. The attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. If you take a look at the visual here on the Zoom call, you see from left to right, a very common thing. You see it probably at lunchtime today or at breakfast. Folks are on their phone. I don't know about you, but it seems like no one's really engaging each other. They're all staring at their phone. And whether we like it or not, that's the new world we're in. We've got this challenge now as we're marketing chamber events, chamber opportunities, chamber benefits, is people are all over the map with their attention span, myself included some days. And I know many of you chamber directors, I communicate with you, you're just as shiny as the rest of us. However, I want to share some ways today, woven and intermingled throughout the presentation, that you can capture people's attention better and hold it, especially if it's an important idea. So continuing, the best analogy is from one of my mentors, Dan Kennedy. I read one of his articles a couple months back. He said, look, we now have the attention span in North America of a goldfish on meth, thus the fish flying out of the bowl. And it's not going to change anytime soon. And if you have young professional groups or you have chamber ambassadors, and if they particularly under the age of 30, they would be like, oh yeah, that's totally me. Okay. And I look at this battle for attention as it's going to really force each of us as leaders. And I want everyone to write this down. You are the leader. Okay. Whether you, again, look at your title or not, or whatever your role is with the chamber space, the community is looking for you to lead them. Okay. And you're going to have to do it quicker. You're going to have to get to the point faster. You're going to have to show your value proposition much greater in a shorter amount of time. One of the great quotes from Albert Einstein, it's in the latest book, Positive Disruption, is the genius is in making the complex simple. The simpler you can make it, the easier you can get to the point about an opportunity, a benefit, chamber dues, why they should join, what are they getting, the more likely they are to listen to you and be grateful that you're not taking up a lot of their time. So again, this is a new reality. I don't like it, but it's the way that the world functions, is we've got to get our value proposition out there very, very fast. All right, so the number one mission today, going ahead here, is I would like to do a mindset intervention. So all of a sudden, let's uninstall the negativity, the fear, the doubt, the concerns you have for the next 35, 40 minutes. All right, I am not naive. Again, having been self-employed for 17 years, I worked in corporate America for about 12 years. That holistic look, I can tell you, it's very, very scary out there with certain companies. You have negative attitudes. You probably have a couple board members, you're shaking your head with me, that are extremely negative. And you need what I believe is a balancing act. I'm more of a pragmatic, motivational guy. And I think it's because I'm closer to 50 years old now than when I was 40. And I think as you grow older, you get the gift of wisdom. And the challenge is, there's the old adage is, prepare yourself. Well, we've always done it that way here in Lexington. We've always done it that way here in Mount Pleasant. And you have to look at that board member or that chamber member and just say, you know what? I totally agree. That's the way we've always done it. However, are you open for a new idea? So I want to encourage you to get ready to be able to pivot in position where you don't make people mad, that you don't give them that scowl, or they give you the scowl when you present an idea, and you lead with confidence, not arrogance. Let me repeat that. You're going to lead with confidence, not arrogance. You have a tough job as a chamber pro. Again, you could be in the private sector doing this for a lot more money. Again, I'm not encouraging you to leave the chamber role. We need you. I am saying is, you've got a lot of folks that on your board mean well, but they don't understand the complexities of the role you have. Okay, so you may want to write that one down. They just don't get the complexities and all the tugging special interests you have coming at you. I'm not talking politics here. I'm talking about the wide range of diversity that you have in your membership. Okay, so I give you permission now to come to Positive Disruption World with me. Continuing. Another cautionary tale. This quote here, apathy. Besides a lot of fear and doubt, many of it is, I believe those opinions are very rightfully garnered because we came out of a lockdown. We basically got put into a timeout for 15 months globally. Is something that's still lingering around very loud is apathy. If you look down at the center word there, it says noun, lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. If you were to circle enthusiasm, this is where you're going to be looked at as the crazy one. Like, you know what, gosh, Tony over that chamber there, he always seems to be really positive. He seems to always have a good attitude. He's always, maybe a little bit too looking forward, too happy. Be prepared that your positive attitude is going to tick off a few people. And again, that's to be expected. What I'm looking at today as we do this training to lift you up, and if you take a nugget or two from me and you share it, is that people are drawn to your energy and they go, you know what? Chamber's not going to change. They're going to be looking out for us. They're moving forward. They're not looking back in fear. They're going to continue to lead the path, and you do that with enthusiasm. So be prepared. Some of your members are not going to roll out the red carpet. Some are going to want to keep playing it safe, and it will be up to you to discern as you take your positive disruption forward, how you're going to handle that. All right. Next little fun slide here. On the contrarian, you got to keep them guessing. But oh my gosh, please make a note, everybody on this call. Not everyone in your community is scared. There are a few what I call trailblazers or leaders that are waiting and excited to sponsor your events, to renew, to refer fellow people that are not members yet to you. We're going to talk about near the end. I'm going to tease you with, you should be asking for more business, for more sponsorship dollars from certain members. You have certain members in your community that are doing very, very well, no matter what goes on. And yes, this is a time to maybe lean on them more and show more value and simply ask them to step up to the plate even more. Again, you know those members better than I do. There's also prospective not yet members that you should be calling right now to say, hey, we're moving ahead. We're going to be doing a lot of local stuff that's going to positively impact the community. Do you want to join us or basically be left out? Doesn't mean you threaten anybody. That's not how I operate. People are drawn to what they can't have. It's called fear of loss. So if you have a positive message, if they see, hey, the rest of my competitors are in the chamber, you should be looking at them going, you know what's missing? You. So this is what I want to give you. This is what type of stuff I used to teach at Institute when I taught marketing and retention is, hey, we've got 4 or 5 of your biggest competing firms here in the community with us. We're missing you. How can we get you to join? So it doesn't have to be a hard sell. You don't have to beg people. You attract them. All right, continuing. In a society that profits from self-doubt, liking yourself is a rebellious act. I know, having had private conversations with lots of chamber pros and executives throughout the US and Canada, this industry can really beat you down. And I'm going to lay out the case a little bit later in the presentation about why groups like this, your state conferences, if you're a member of ACCE or Institute, again, I don't get any kickback or endorsement fee from them. It's just smart to me to not go it alone. And when you're being positive and you're taking bold steps now coming out of the pandemic, it's always good to lean on other fellow executives that are like on this call to lift you up. You are not alone. And I especially think here's some dual wisdom for not only you, but your members. To go it alone right now in this economy is foolish. You need to have other positive people around you and also pragmatic people that can tell you, hey, that may not be a good idea, or hey, you know what, you might want to check out another resource because they've already paved the path for you. So again, positivity is not always the easiest thing, as you might think, to sell because people are like trained to be negative. They're like, well, haven't you heard what's going on? Haven't you heard the local news? Here's my response. Yeah, so what? Next, we got to keep going forward. All right, continuing. Some thoughts about fear and doubt. If you look at this picture here, there's a picture of someone that has their foot on the gas and a foot on the brake. Here's the challenge each of us faces, even myself. I'm a motivational guy, but even I have off moments. I'm never 100% positive. Please make a note, that is not realistic. I'm human, okay? But a lot of us throughout the day, if we don't govern our thoughts, we have doubt creeping in on the left side, we're tapping the brake. Then we're positive, we have a good meeting, we have a good idea, we're putting the foot on the gas. We go through a lot of our ideas, unless we're careful to govern our thoughts, where we're foot on the gas, foot on the brake. We don't get much sustained momentum is what I'm trying to say. And again, a big point of this training is really helping you to release the brake, to feel confident with your ideas, your value proposition, to be able to move forward. And those doubters, those dissenting members, the media, you might have some politicians, you might have some for-profit, nonprofit businesses that don't agree with you, is you have to, once you've made a discerned decision, let that go and put the foot on the gas and move forward. And again, some of these moves will be very boldly rewarded. Some people are not going to say a word, even if you have a very successful event, member campaign, or retention plan, or program. Don't expect them to roll the red carpet out, but you have to be very confident that your mind is either your biggest ally or your biggest enemy. Thoughts to me are extremely important. All right. This slide that we're about to show you was one of the highest ranked memes. I do a lot of Facebook and Instagram posting for my audiences. This one got the highest reaction during the pandemic. And here's why I think it is. We did not see much leadership. I said that right in the beginning of the training today. I don't know what happened. I've learned to forgive and let go. I'm not a perfect human ever, and to not judge. From different governments to nonprofit leaders to for-profit leaders, there was no cohesive plan because it kept changing. And I know many of the Midwestern states are with Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, and Illinois. A lot of our states followed the same blueprint about how they handled COVID. Not all of us agreed on it or liked it, but we had to work within those parameters. And I can say right now, this to me, the next 12 to 18 months could be a very golden period for chambers to grow. Okay. And I see a comment from Nikki here. Yes, it definitely revealed the strong chambers of commerce that didn't stop working, that adapted, that continued to communicate. Please write this down for future chamber trainings. The better you communicate with your members, your clients, the community, the businesses, the media, the stronger that you kept showing up. You couldn't do the physical things. I understand it. But if you kept communicating, doing Zoom, doing Facebook Live, putting your email out, that let people know that you cared and that you weren't sitting back waiting. So again, I go back to the power of the group here. Many of you shared ideas during COVID. You didn't have to go it alone. So to me, you get a lot of this. I sometimes when I'm sharing and teaching with an audience, I'm in the common sense business where I'm reminding people of things they've forgotten. Especially in your world, you've got a million moving pieces coming at you at all given points. All right, this next character, his name is Winston Churchill. We don't have time for a history lesson, but let me give you some thoughts on why this is in here. Churchill, to me, if you look at the quote to set the stage, he's right on. You have many people in your Chamber of Commerce that you can easily say, yep, they're the pessimist or they're the optimist. And you have to be very careful that the pessimist does not destroy the majorities or a larger leaning of where you want to move forward, because they get very, very loud. They get very, very vocal. And each of you knows how to work within that structure, or you lean on other members or employees in your team, because they can kill the energy. And again, you want their opinion. I'm not contradicting what I said earlier, but you want to have people that say, you know what, it's not the easiest decision. We've voted on it. We agreed. Let's get going. Let's roll our sleeves and get up to work. When pandemic hit last March, I had many clients and chambers and nonprofits that were watching what I was doing and say, hey, how would you motivate us now? And I went back to in late March of last year, and I pulled off several different books, a couple I'm going to reference here in a minute, that I shared on Facebook Live with all my clients to do reading and to learn the lessons from. But I also went back to history. Aaron and a couple people on the call may know this in conversations over the years, but I originally thought I was going to be a history teacher. I love history. So I switched my major, became a business guy, and then minored in history in college, but I still have never stopped learning from humans, okay? Churchill single-handedly talked the British people into believing they would not submit to Germany during World War II. They would not, surrender to Adolf Hitler. If you go to YouTube and you listen to, or even on Spotify, his classic chats during World War II, they were incredibly motivating. He, by the force of his words, his enthusiasm, got the British people to not quit, to never surrender. as he would say in his classic speeches. And I look back and I say, you know what are the lessons during a very dark period in history? Again, a world war is not the same as a pandemic, but how does the human spirit push forward when there's all that uncertainty? So let me give you some perspective to remind us that it wasn't as bad as it could have been in relation to other historical events. Now, again, I had friends and family that had COVID. I had a friend of mine in Florida pass from COVID. So I'm not minimizing that it was real, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. But as we go forward as a human civilization, what can we learn from historical moments in time? So let's take a look. The historical perspective, the Blitz during World War II, Germany bombed London. There's some pictures to prove it. There's Churchill walking through a bombed out church with some dignitaries and government officials. Continuing on, London was hit for 57 straight days with fire bombings. Okay, the city was basically leveled. Millions of children were moved to the countryside to be safe, and it lasted over 9 months. Take a look at the picture here. Those are folks sleeping in the underground subways. So as I've been out on the road the last couple months, and even during the pandemic doing Zoom trainings, live and virtual, I've tried to remind folks that it's not as bad as it could have been in historical times. I don't think our generation now, with all the cell phones and Wi-Fi and Netflix creature comforts, could survive sleeping in the subway or underground for 2, 3, 4 months at a time. I'm sure the outrage would be high. Not a judgment call. I'm just trying to compare that it wasn't a perfect way to handle it. There was lots of confusion during COVID. However, we as the human race have made it and endured forward. We don't let these things stop us from progressing and moving civilization forward. Other thoughts? There were 40,000 civilian casualties in London alone, 44,000. That's a big loss of life in a concentrated period of time. You see the children there going through the rubble trying to find their things. Real estate, more than 1 million homes were destroyed or damaged. There's children again sleeping underground, okay? To me, if we don't learn from the lessons of history, we're very bound to repeat it again. So to me, and this is not trying to be negative or a downer, we're all adults here, is we have faced challenging times. Let's continue to push forward, all right? Continuing on, my thoughts, let's pivot. You adapt, you overcome, you improvise. Powerful 3 words or 3 statements from the movie Heartbreak Ridge. Gunny Highway was played by Clint Eastwood in the film, and he talked about how we can really respond or we can react. And to me, many chambers on this call, many that I work with that brought me in, chose to respond accordingly. Couldn't do it perfect because no one knew what the heck was going on, okay? But if you're in a reactionary mode, that doesn't show leadership. So I'm going to give you some quotes here that are in the new book, things that I put on social media that I share in all my trainings, because to me, they remind us of things we're doing well or things that we may have forgotten. All right, so very quickly, what I'd like to share with MIKI today, fellow members, is what I call the 5 H's. So Aaron will go ahead and pull that up here. And they're in no particular order, but these draw from the new book. The first area is what I call habits and discipline. Number 2, hustle and hater management. Number 3, happiness in spite of short-term setbacks. Number 4, a healthy body, mind, and spirit. Number 5, hope for yourself in the future. You go through this. And a lot of the new book that we're drawing from was written last spring when I was off the road. I've always wanted to do a quote book of positive quotes and messages. And the idea was to add a question in for self-reflection and make it into a book that you journal each day. So the entire synopsis of the book is you turn inward and you look at a quote and there's a question and you answer the question each day and you write down your innermost feelings, okay? You dig for your ideas. And I think what's happened in this sped up 9-second world, we look always to the external, everyone else's opinions. You have to have that. Don't get me wrong. But many times we ignore our gut feeling. We have really suppressed our intuition, or what's called our inner self. So the book and the message, this keynote that we're working through today, is really geared to help each person, regardless of their background or level of experience in chamber world, to dig back inward for their own inner genius, their own ideas, and to dust them off, uncover them, and get them back out into the light. Because many times our best breakthroughs are when we listen to our intuition. So here we go. One of my friends and fellow colleagues, you'll see him come up here on the right side in the picture, holding the microphone. His name's CJ Ortiz. There he is in the upper right. He says, your best defense is a stronger you. Now, in the introduction, Aaron had mentioned that I host an annual event. This was from a boot camp that I host called the Mind Capture Boot Camp. We did this in Detroit 2 years ago. He was one of my speakers that I brought in. If you look at him, his whole motif or motto is, it's Tony Robbins meets Metallica. Okay. Now, I'm a rock and roll guy. Metallica is a hard rock. And Tony Robbins is arguably the most big name in our industry as far as personal development. Most people know who Tony Robbins is, okay? But if you look at what CJ's trying to impart, if you look beyond his image, probably one of the smarter men I've ever met in this world. He used to be a preacher for 20 years. He lives in North Carolina. He looks like a heavy metal rock and roll guy, but he sounds like a preacher. It's the most bizarre thing, but stay with me. What I love about CJ is that he is a very adamant believer, long before the word self-care arrived, that you must program, defend your mind carefully, and put positivity into it every day, almost by force. Kind of that rock and roll attitude, that high energy, is that you must every day make a decision that positivity is a priority. Because the healthier you are as the leader, as a chamber pro, the more you can give energy and ideas back out to your members and to your team. Why is a positive attitude so important? So we go to the next slide here. I pulled this out specifically for the group today. And you can interchange one word here in a second. It says it can take years to gain someone's business and only seconds to lose it. So let's just change it. It can take years to gain someone's membership and seconds to lose it. Now, I don't want to be negative, but here's why I put this slide specifically in for this group today. Members can be very fickle, and some of them, rightfully so, are very scared. Some of them are barely hanging on. Conversely, on the other side, some are doing okay, and some are doing very, very well. Your mission is to be able to meet each member where they're at this marker in time. Let me repeat this, is to meet each member at this marker in time where they're at. And to bring an open mind to really listen to them, acknowledge it, and then offer ways to help them. Many times we get so enthusiastic, we just go rolling at them with all the reasons they should renew, why they should join the chamber, and we don't sit back and listen to them first, ask key questions, and then meet them right where they're at. From that point where you're meeting them, you can show them a vision forward. So I know I'm going a little bit off script here, but to me, I train tons of salespeople. Those are core principles that work, whether you're for-profit, nonprofit, small, big, mid-sized organization, that people are begging to be heard right now. Social distance taught us that we as humans miss each other. And if it's a phone call, a Zoom call, or now face-to-face over a cup of coffee, if you're going to their location to meet with them or at a chamber event, focused listening is the greatest connection point to me besides laughter. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But that attitude will allow you to listen without trying to over talk, to bring an open mind where you take ideas and you listen to them, you write their notes and their opinions down. They will greatly appreciate that. Okay. All right. So my assessment for all of us, 2020 and 21, we're almost halfway through 21. Life of an entrepreneur. We could cross that out and put life of a chamber executive. Okay, let's start from the left and work it down. Yay, I joined the chamber. We're doing well. Oh my God, March of last year. What have I done? Then you're like, hey, it's summer last year. I'm feeling inspired again. Oh my gosh, drop down the middle here. F my life. Oh my gosh, things are turning around. Oh my gosh, why? And then you go, it's going to be okay. Many of you on this call, that's a daily trip for you in the chamber. And I say this with fun laughter. You've got to, I believe, have a good sense of humor because you are being pulled a million different directions. You're a counselor, you're a shrink, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an attorney, you're a salesperson, you're all those things in one. In any given day, it's going to change once again. So again, I congratulate you for making the chamber journey and sticking through it because it has been probably 10 years, the last year and a half of experience putting that 18 months for all of us. All right. So we look at decision day. The genesis of the new book, the new talk that we're talking about today, was I mentioned a few minutes ago, I was off the road, all my income stopped. I had very gracious clients. I was doing some virtual training. I said, let's put a book out right now that you've always wanted to do. And what I can share with you is that I'm shocked the last 7 months since we put the book out, the reaction to it, not because I didn't believe in the message, but when you put out a book about positive disruption during a pandemic, trust me, people think you're nuts. Now, there's a small minority of like-minded people that liked it, but here's my quick assessment. I'm glad we did it, and here's why. Now more than ever, coming out of this crazy situation, people are looking for positive energy, new ideas, fresh perspectives. I had a suspicion when we put the book out in December and January and launched it, people would be attracted to it, but I had no idea it would take off and spread the way it did, okay? The book to me is still launching because we didn't get a chance to go out and really do a lot of live events. We did a lot of Zoom calls. I did some television interviews live. But to me, people are saying, look, we had 18 months, almost a year and a half to really self-reflect. What do we do now? So the theme of the book is how do you empower yourself? This may sound controversial, but I'm going to say it. If you're still listening, you know I'm not afraid to speak my mind. But if you really look at it, who is going to save you? I'm not talking about your faith walk. It's very important. Who is really going to save you at the end of the day? Look in the mirror. You have to take action yourself. People can give you all the advice. They can try to coach you. They can try to motivate you. And please note this. I'm not a motivational speaker. Okay. I'm a positive disruptor. I'm a hope dealer. I persuade people, if I can, to think differently, to question differently, and to look at life from a positive perspective. But I can't make any adult on this call or in any audience change. I can just hopefully disrupt their thinking to the better. All right. So the book is a tool. And I want to do a little bit of an interactive exercise here. If you look at the hammer, okay, the book is the hammer. The nail is each daily quote and a question in the gratitude component. So if we flip ahead here, I took a photo from today's quote in question out of the book. I'm going to read it real quick, and then you're free to either come back to this, or if you're taking notes, if you're at your desk or at home, to write this down. And I'll explain why we do this. So the quote is, anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. Proverbs 12:25. Here's the question. What's your favorite book, podcast, song, movie, quote, prayer, person, or memory that lifts you up when you're feeling down? You see below the quote and the question in the book, there's lines, several lines to write down your own observations. The book has quotes from famous people in history. It's not a book of just strictly Christian proverbs or quotes. There are a few quotes in there, but to me, it's very wide open from people that are alive and that have passed on their wisdom. Here's why, from what I'm hearing, people like it. It gives them a chance to self-reflect, to physically write things down. I've had many therapists, doctors reach out to me unsolicited and say, Tony, this is a great book for our patients. I'm like, whoa, I didn't see this happening. I have therapists that recommend this to their clients so they can write their ideas down in journal. As you might imagine, the quotes are very positive. They're designed to keep you looking forward, not looking behind in constant fear. All right, so as we continue on here, some other thoughts about how to stay positive in a very, very different world. I'm a big believer that you write down every day a gratitude list. That's a picture of my journal. There's the pen. And while I'm a big believer that you write things down, the other option is you can type it into your phone or on your computer into a Word document, okay? But why I like writing is it kinesthetically anchors you to take the idea, tumble it out of your head, and put it to paper. In addition, it is almost physically impossible to be upset, angry, or disturbed when you are in a state of gratitude. Every morning, okay, if I'm going to teach this, I better eat my own cooking. In that gratitude journal, I write down what I'm grateful for. I also wrote down a few key I am statements. Those are affirmations. And I have a couple of different quotes that are my favorite that I write down every single day. Unless I'm traveling or on vacation, I might miss a day or two, but it's become a force of habit that I look forward to. What it's also doing is starting out my day very positively. If I have a rough day ahead, we all have busy schedules, and I got some tough appointments. Writing my gratitude list reminds me that, hey, I'm very fortunate that people engage me, that I have these appointments, that I'm healthy, that I have children, that I have good people that work with me. Once you get in that momentum, that domino sequence of positivity, and you write gratitude down, your energy changes. Your day flows much better. Again, it doesn't work every single time, but I'd rather program my mind for positivity than react to all the negativity around me. All right, continuing. Again, you can see this is very visual. Personal growth requires, there it is, that constant, consistent input of positive materials. So many people, yes, I'm being very stereotypical because I watch the human race around me online and in person. A lot of folks just kind of react, they're drifting. And it's our mission, I believe, as leaders and positive disruptors, is to say a kind word, to get them sometimes out of a negative thought pattern. To, if they're trying to bring us down, to redirect them. Doesn't mean we trick them or we don't listen to them, but you've got some folks around you, I know, that are just, they walk in and the storm clouds follow them. And I believe it's our mission to defend our energy and our positivity, okay? So some proven knowledge here. I want to share with you 2 other books besides Positive Disruption today that are just phenomenal. This book, I went right to the bookshelf, March of 2020, went right on Facebook Live and blasted it out to everyone I knew. Get the audiobook or get the printed version of this book or Kindle. It was written in 1938. It posthumous released in 2011. Full disclosure, I was brought in by Amazon to look at the manuscript of this book 10 years ago. And when I first read it, I was like, oh my gosh. Napoleon Hill, you may have heard the name, wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. It sold over 100 million copies. He wrote that book in 1937. The book in front of you in that picture was designed to be the follow-up. It was written 1 year later, but the family was so shocked by what he put in there, they hid it for 70 years. True story. Posthumous, Hill died in 1970. They released the book to the world. And I've had more people throughout any given week say that book is incredible. Here's the genesis of it and why I encourage you to get it. In the book, whether you believe it or not, it's a work of fiction. Hill interviews the devil in the courtroom, and he asks the devil, why does the human race fail? And the devil talks about all the reasons he tricks humanity. Doubt, fear, propaganda, wars, insecurity. And again, it's not a book of politics, religion. He points out that we are sometimes our own worst enemy because we get scared, we doubt our abilities, we become afraid. So that book to me is a no-brainer. I reread it a couple times per year. And I'm just a big believer that that book has timeless wisdom, especially for now. All right, continuing. Here's a quote out of the book. This to me was 2020 in a nutshell for all of us that are leaders. This is your testing time in order that you might be forced to discover your other self. Napoleon Hill. Now, leadership is not easy. That's why a lot of people don't choose to do it. I'm not saying that leaders are better than anybody else. We're all humans here. I'm saying, though, that when times get very challenging, we're going to have to dig deeper. We're going to have to network more effectively. We're going to have to maybe meditate. We're going to have to research. We're going to have to get around other people that are like-minded to lift us up and to save us from things that could damage our chamber or damage our leadership position. Not because we want to always play it safe, but we know we're going to have to make tough calls. And this, to me, the last year and a half was our testing time. All right, the next book is from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. You could probably ask a snapshot of college students and high school students. Many of them have to read this. I think every human should read this, and here's why. Frankl survived multiple concentration camps during World War II in Germany. The statistics were not good. Out of 22 people that went into a German concentration camp, 1 out of 22 survived. Frankl made it out. He was a trained psychologist. He was put in, and he chronicled how he survived. And a lot of it was also due to some lucky breaks. He talks about, he had to have the right mindset, but there was some luck involved here. But this, to me, when I recommended last year, was when the world stopped for all of us, we all had to reevaluate our life position. My industry got completely stopped. All my income stopped. So I know for like many of your chamber members that were closed or had to go to 50% capacity, they were having many dark nights of the soul. I will say this, and this may be a little strange. As we pull out of COVID now, we go into this post-COVID world, as I put in the title, I hope that each of us takes a lesson or two from the timeout that we had. How do we want to reevaluate how we go forward? What is a goal or a hobby or a mission or a cause that we want to give to? What is that book or that hobby that we want to take up or that goal that we put off? Maybe coming out of the pandemic now, we're going to get serious about things that we brushed aside when the world was sped up, okay? So to me, Viktor Frankl nails it. If people don't have their meaning or their purpose or their drive, they're all the same word, they lose hope. And that's where they need us as leaders to come in to remind them. Great quote here, he says, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Okay. Folks, we think we had it tough. I like to remind us, not for political rhetoric or to judge or shame anyone, that people have been through much tougher situations historically, and they've made it through, and they've taught us wisdom that we need to share and use. That's the key word, use now, to influence us positively to move forward and keep the human race going. Some other thoughts about how to stay positive. Physical activity. I don't know about you, but I could not stand having our gym shut down for 6 months. So I learned to go out into the forest. I love to hike anyway, walking. One of the new things I wanted to try last year was yoga. So last September, I got into a yoga class. I'm grateful to report that 9 months later, I'm still taking yoga every week, and it's been fun. It's difficult. I will admit the first couple months, I felt like I was going to fall over all the time, but it pushed me to focus on a new challenge, to concentrate, and also get me away from all the noise of the world. So to me, if you're not healthy, again, this is a strong opinion, you lose that energy. And if you feel healthier physically and spiritually, it helps you to be that much more highly functioning in your role as a leader. People are drawn to energy. I very rarely see a leader that will tell me, hey, I wish I was, completely out of shape because I could lead better. I've never heard a leader tell me that. Privately, some leaders tell me, man, I need to get in better shape because I feel like I'm dragging. Yes. So again, not a judgment call, just a strong piece of advice here that physicality, our health is our greatest asset. So coming out of this thing, do your best, maybe walk in the morning, maybe take a walk at lunch, maybe you're on some of these Zoom calls, you're out taking a walk while you're multitasking. Wait a minute, you're chamber executives, you do these things. But I think the lockdown showed us the power that when we're kind of cooped up and all of our social activities are taken away, we need to return outside and also work on our physicality. Continuing. Reinforces again the theme of the book. I really believe that when we turn inward, we find a lot of ideas, wisdom, and peace. The world is noisy. We have to play in it. Social media, I get comments all the time. How do you like social media? Isn't it distracting? Yes, it's distracting, but it's also the flip side, the paradox, a great way to reach and engage people. Facebook and Instagram and YouTube videos were a great way of how we kept our business and many of my clients' businesses relevant when we couldn't physically see them. I think we all get that. But again, the whole goal of positive disruption is you learn to get selfish with yourself and you turn inward. Some other thoughts about here, continuing, employ laughter. Charles Dickens, there is nothing in the world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor. Folks, a lot of people are walking around scared. I'll say this as well, mentally constipated. They are all wound up in their head. They got a million things going on. They've forgotten how to laugh. They're scared of each other. Do I hug someone? Do I fist bump? Do I give them a shake? What do I do? And the quickest point I said earlier that I believe is you make people laugh. Say it's okay to get out and circulate. It's okay to smile. People are looking for that. So have some fun right now because people are learning how to do this again. Next thought. You never know who needs you. Good energy is contagious. Again, I talked about the setup here, the 5 H's, haters. You're going to have people that don't like you. That's okay. If everyone likes you, that probably means you're not making some tough decisions. Let me repeat that. If you have everyone that likes you, that probably means you're not making some tough decisions. So you as the leaders, the Chamber of Commerce, activity, goods and service exchange, ideas, not everyone's going to fall into step, and that's okay. You want to be contagious to those that get it and that are attracted to it. Next thought. This slide is specifically for you. I know it's been crazy, but you are a badass. Don't forget, you have a tough role. It's okay to have people not like you. It's also okay to realize that a lot of people look up to you and they count on you, especially now, to lead going forward. Some days are tough. You have those board meetings, you have certain sponsors, you have a tough renewal, you have the newspaper coming down on you, you have the city council. There are days you feel pulled apart, but please, 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 maybe you make this as one of your screensavers or on your phone. Click this baby on when you're having a bad day, because we all have them. Maybe you pick up a phone call and you say, hey, fellow unicorn, don't forget, this is not a tough job, but it's worth it. All right, wrapping up here. Quick story. This is my son, Braden, 12 years ago. And I never forget this moment. It was a beautiful June day in Michigan. We had a dog at the time named Jake, big Labrador retriever. Picture this. Jake used to run out of our house and try to escape. Beautiful June day, Braden and I captured Jake, our chocolate Labrador retriever, at the end of the driveway. We walked him back up to the house. In the garage, I let the dog back in. Braden looks at me, almost with the same expression, says, hey, Dad, how come the dog doesn't wear clothes like we do? I looked at him, I thought, what did you say? He goes, how come Jake doesn't wear clothes like we humans do? Now, this will definitely capture your attention. Here's why I put it in now. Please don't lose that childlike curiosity. There's not bad ideas. The ideas that are bad are the ones that are never spoken or shared because people don't feel comfortable. And I can tell you, if you put surveys out there, go through them. Sometimes your members that you think, well, I haven't really heard much, give you a great idea. But we have lost a lot of that childlike curiosity. Okay, it's okay to be a 7-year-old sometimes, because I can tell you what, the real world sometimes, I'd rather have fun with it because so many people are too serious. Think right now, another benefit of reopening, you can try new ideas, but you've got to feel like that 7-year-old says, hey, let's have some fun with this. Let's try it and let's not be afraid. All right. Another picture there. Fast forward, there's Braden now, he's 18. That's his new dog, Rocco. He's still around those dogs and I'm still taking lessons from the kid. Okay. Be vigilant. I'm going to go through these real quick to wrap up. Yes, you've got to look out for the media. One of my favorites, guard your mind each day from negative people, news, and gossip. Okay. That's everywhere. Energy management. Again, I'll give you these slides real fast here. I'm a big believer that you have to do pattern interrupts throughout the day. Put on music, take a walk, do breathing exercises. What can you do to override negativity? This to me is a great way to do it. Okay, you change energy, you change outcome. Continuing, mastermind. A quote from Napoleon Hill again here. Without doubt, the most common weakness of all human beings is the habit, circle that, habit of leaving their minds open to negative influence of other people. You've got to guard your mind very carefully. Continuing, some examples there, some events that we do. This is the event we did during the pandemic. You get a great team around you. That's some of the folks on our team. You got to have a great staff, great team. Let me focus on these two and we'll wrap. One of our speakers at our event last year was Tammy Bennell. She's the highest ranking real estate executive in North America. 30,000 people report to her in Boston. She said this, build from a position of strength. Start by asking yourself, do you need to reinforce today? Or does someone need to reinforce you? That's where you lean on each other in this group. Your staff, you know, some of your staff are having a tough day. They're going to draw from you. You might be having a tough day. You draw from others to build you up. That is a very powerful statement from a great leader. Continuing. Avoid the boga. I think we'll save that story for another time. We'll wrap it up here with two final slides. David Goggins, former U.S. Navy SEAL, said this. You're in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without realizing your true potential. If you get one thing from the training today, again, I thank you for your valuable time and Aaron for the invitation, is what one or two ideas are you going to implement right after this call today? Go through if you've been taking notes or there's a slide or an idea you wrote and say, look, circle one or two ideas and say, you know what? I need to send someone an email. I need to get a hold of one of our staff members. I need to implement that or get some action taken towards it now. All we have is the present moment. You have an incredibly busy job. I understand many of you. I could almost be a director. But if you've got a big idea, I'd rather have you try it, get it out there. And even if it doesn't succeed the first time, you could say, you know what? I have no regrets. I've been wanting to try this idea, and maybe the time is now. Okay? A few thoughts on haters and critics. I'm going to read two more slides here, and we're going to wrap. Maybe three. Okay? This is right out of the new book. The critic revels and enjoys spending time picking apart your dream versus working on their own. You have to ignore them, and you have to continue forward. If it becomes a major problem, talk with your team and address it, but do not let them take up all your time. All right, do not be afraid to ask. We'll come to that some other time. Let's look at this quote from Brene Brown. If you aren't in the arena also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. Keep that in the back of your mind because you are the leader and you are not alone. You have your peers, such as this group. You have your team. You have key board members that believe in you. You got to take it sometimes with a grain of salt. All right. I'm going to finish with 2 more slides here. We'll save that other slide right there for the next time. Some perspective. Take a look at that. Oh, wait, you're chamber executives. You get it. And Les Brown, one of my heroes, would say you got to be hungry. And it's going to take us to the final slide. So we're exactly at 1 hour. Never downplay the significance of your own life story and the positive impact it can have on others. Each of you has amazing stories. Share them to retain members, to attract new members, but more importantly, to positively disrupt. Miki, it's been fun. Aaron, thanks for the invite. I'll turn it back to you now.
I can figure out how to unmute myself, Tony. That's amazing. And I had to laugh when you put up that unicorn slide because I have a card that I received last year from a fellow chamber executive. And on the front is a very pink unicorn. It says, "You are a freaking magical unicorn. Don't forget it."
There you go.
It's right in there. Let's see if there's any questions coming in on the chat for any of you. And it doesn't look like it at this point. So we'll just go ahead and wrap it up because we're all on the time schedule. Again, Tony, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. For all of you, we will be sharing the slides and the recording with all of you. You'll have access to all of this information. If you need anything from any of us, Tony, Lisa, Amy, Shelley, myself, we're all here and available. And I hope everyone just has a really great week. Thanks
Take
for
care.
joining us.
See ya. Bye-bye.